Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. Well, come on in and sit down. And let's just spend some time together with God as we talk about prayer and what prayer is to us. There are many ways to pray, aren't there? And when we are particularly serious about prayer, and we don't think of it anymore as one of the many things that people do in their lives, but rather prayer being the basic receptive attitude out of which all of life can receive new vitality. And then we will sooner or later come to the question, what is my way to pray? What is the prayer of my heart? Just as an artist searches for the style that is most their own, so people who pray search for the prayer of their heart. What is most profound in life and therefore most dear to us always needs to be properly protected as well as expressed. It therefore is not surprising that prayer is often surrounded by carefully prescribed gestures and words, by detailed rituals and elaborate ceremonies. Prayer means, above all, to be accepting toward God who is always new and always different. To be accepting toward God. For God is a deeply moved God whose heart is greater than ours. The open acceptance of prayer in the face of an ever new God makes us free. In prayer, we are constantly on the way. We are constantly on a pilgrimage. On our way, we meet more and more people who show us something about God whom we seek, often something we never knew before. We will never know for sure if we have reached God, but we do know that God will always be new and that there is never a reason to fear him. Prayer is the act by which we divest ourselves of all false belongings and we become free to belong to God and God alone. And this explains why, although we often feel a great desire to pray, we experience at the same time a tremendously strong resistance. We want to move closer to God, the source and goal of our existence. But at the same time we realize that the closer we come to God, the stronger will be God's demand to let go of the many safe structures that we have built around ourselves. Prayer is such a radical act because it requires us to criticize our whole way of being in the world, to lay down our old selves and accept our new self, which is Christ. This is what Paul has in mind when he calls us to die with Christ so that we can live with Christ. It is to this experience of death and rebirth that Paul is witnessing when he writes, I live now, not my own life, but I live with the life of Christ who lives in me. Galatians 2 and verse 20. In the act of prayer, we undermine the illusion of control by divesting ourselves of all false belongings. And by directing ourselves totally and utterly to the God who is the one and only to whom we belong. Prayer, therefore, is the act of dying to all that we consider to be our own, and of being born to a new existence which is not of this world. Prayer is indeed a death to the world, so that we can live for God. The great mystery of prayer is that even now it leads us into a new heaven and a new earth, and thus is an anticipation of life in the divine kingdom. God is timeless, God is immortal, God is eternal, and prayer lifts us up into this divine life. To pray means to open your hands before God. It means slowly relaxing the tension which squeezes your hands together and accepting your existence with an increasing readiness, not as a possession to be defended, but as a gift to be received. Above all, prayer is a way of life, which allows you to find a stillness in the midst of the world, where you open your hands to God's promises and find hope for yourself, your neighbor, and your world. In prayer, you encounter God not only in the small voice and the soft breeze, but also in the midst of the turmoil of the world, in the distress and joy of your neighbor, and in the loneliness of your own heart. Prayer leads you to see new paths and to hear new melodies in your life. Prayer is the breath of your life, which gives you freedom to go and to stay where you wish, and to find the many signs which point out the way to a new land. Prayer is not simply some necessary compartment in the daily schedule of a Christian, or a source of support in a time of need. Nor is it restricted to Sunday mornings or meal times. Prayer is living. It is eating and drinking, action and rest, teaching and learning, playing and working. Prayer pervades every aspect of our lives. It is the unceasing recognition that God is wherever we are, always inviting us to come closer and to celebrate the divine gift of being alive. Amen.